Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another episode of UnPublic. I'm so excited for the guest we have today. I'm excited for every guest, but this guest is also amazing. But before we begin, I would like to let everyone know, for those who are unfamiliar with UnPublic. So UnPublic is a show that discovers details about a post made public by our guests and asks us a few questions to kind of get to the additional details about the post. And while the guest is answering questions, they're going to go through a series of 4 general knowledge quiz game. So it's going to be 4 general knowledge questions. They have to answer at least 3 of the 4 questions correctly. If they fail to answer 3 of the questions correctly, they will have to share with us their most embarrassing moments. So this is where the unpublic news will become public. So originally from the beautiful country of Ukraine, she started her musical journey at the age of 10 years old, and now a professional cello player, having worked for the concert series of the National Museum of Art in Washington, D.C., and the Market Square Concert Series in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She holds a Master's of Arts in Cello Performance from the Pennsylvania State University. In addition to being a professional cello player, she is now also a professional martial artist, being ranked in 3rd place at the 2021 Open International Jiu-Jitsu Championship by the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, wow, I present to you guys Tetyana. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the presentation. No, that was wonderful.
You're very welcome. Tetyana, teach me how to say your last name. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly.
It is Pyatovolenko. It's a very traditional Ukrainian last name.
Okay, say it one more time.
It's Pyatovolenko.
Okay, Pyatovolenko. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So we have Tetyana Pyatovolenko with us. So, Tetyana, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into what's going on here. So I wanna share with you our very first post. Are you ready?
Alrighty, sounds good.
Okay, hopefully you're not nervous. I've had people nervous on here.
Yeah.
But you'll be fine. Okay.
Hopefully nothing embarrassing.
We'll see. I don't know. Okay, so this post here, it looks like actually there's quite some craziness going on here. So I want you to elaborate. Do you remember this day?
Oh my goodness. I do. That's a fun post. That was a fun day. So do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I think, my first year in the United States. I attended a music camp before my school started at Mississippi College, where I eventually went to get my bachelor degree. And the musician on the left is one of my good friends who I actually ended up playing a lot with while I was in college. And then the musician on the right is a violist, and we always make a lot of viola jokes in music, just general music. So if you're a musician, especially a classical musician, we always get a lot of jokes. And so that was sort of a presentation of violist, doing something funny. So yeah, that was fun times. I think we had a trio, so that's how we ended up, being on the stage together. But it was kind of the atmosphere of that group. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's cool. I'm sure your music was better than what's going on here.
Yes, we did not do that on the concert. It was just one of the rehearsals we had. Just wanted to have some
Okay.
fun.
So tell me a little bit, why music? Why did you choose music of all things you could have ventured into? Why did you start at 10? What was that interest for?
You know, it's interesting because my parents started me and my siblings on piano, and I did not like it. It was not something that I ever thought. I think I was 9 at that time.
Mm.
I thought it just was not an instrument that I could work with me. It was very difficult. I really practiced, and I was very hardworking since I was a kid, but I could not play with both hands together. It was very, very challenging. And so and I told my parents and my teacher, I said I don't want to be a musician, or at least play, the piano. And they said okay, but my teacher said let's wait until the end of the year and see how you do. Which was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then a couple of weeks later, I broke my hand and I had to stop. I was probably the best moments in my life because I didn't have to go to piano lessons. So it was kind of very paradoxical because the summer of, the following summer, I ended up listening to a cello in the music school, and I loved the instrument. I loved the sound. And I still do, but it really catch my attention. I wanted to play the instrument, and so I talked to a teacher in the music school, and I said I really want to try it, and they kind of enrolled me to take cello lessons without my parents knowing it, and so that was a big thing that time. I was 10 at the time, and my sister still was taking lessons, and so I went to school with her, and I started taking classes. And the first probably a few weeks, you just learn the notes, you learn like the theory of the instrument, and eventually you're given a cello, the actual instrument to take home and start practicing. And so I was terrified to come home because I had this huge, the cello is like this big, and
Right.
and people would stare at me in the public transportation, and they still do. They would still be like, what is this instrument? And so I was really scared to tell my parents, not because I told them I didn't want to be a musician, I didn't want to play the music, when I was trying to do the piano, but also because they had to pay for it. And when I was growing up, the finances was not that easy to come by, and so I thought that would be very, angry at me that I started doing something without them knowing. And so when I told them, they were completely fine. They gave me their blessing, and they said, if you want to do this, it's up to you. And so since then, I just worked really hard and practiced a lot, and I decided I wanted to be a musician, or at least a part of my life I dedicated to music, and I still do.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And you are really exceptional. You guys, you need to listen to her playing the instrument. And like you said, it's so huge, and it's like one of those most people are not attracted to. They don't want this huge thing covering their entire being as they're playing, but it's just so amazing. Would you say that you've connected with the instrument? Some people, they become like one with their instrument. Would you say you had that connection with it?
For sure. It's I do believe after my experiences with the cello specifically, and then jiu-jitsu, which we'll probably get a little bit into a little bit later, that sort of there is a path for your goals, for your career, for your life, really. And I do think that there are specific things that attract you, and the cello definitely attracted me. The sound of the cello, the timbre, the beauty of it, even though it's really big, but it's not that bad. I think it when I play the instrument, I think about it as a very beautiful sound, as something that I want to produce and connect to other people through music. And so cello allows me to do it. So it's sort of goes both ways. The instrument is there. It just, what other ways I can make my feelings and my emotions and my understanding of the world that I can share with people through that instrument.
Right. That's very beautiful. And you know that I was researching the most expensive cello is $20 million. Can you imagine?
Yes.
That's a lot.
That is
Yeah.
one. I'd say actually recently I had a conversation with my boyfriend
Hmm.
about the instruments, and I said there are cellos that are over $1 million, and I realized I would love to play one, but to carry for one is very difficult because it's a lot of insurance cost. It's tons of maintenance because those instruments, most of them come. The more expensive the instrument, it really means that it's very old. It usually would come from like 1700s. So
Mm.
the wood is very valuable, the instrument is very valuable, and you have to take care of it every single day. The humidity, the temperature, the space, it makes a huge difference. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's not about just the person who's playing the instrument, it's actually about the instrument itself. You have to really take care of it.
Mm.
Um, so yes, those instruments are wonderful, and I would love to play one day. But I don't know if I would want to have one on me because it's a lot of responsibility. Not that I don't like responsibility, but it's especially traveling with your instrument is also
Mm.
difficult. You have to buy a ticket for, if you travel on the plane,
Yeah.
you have to buy a full price ticket to take it with you. Otherwise, the airlines and there are times when airlines, even if you have a ticket, they still don't like that, and they would give you a hard time of why you have your instrument with you. So,
Wow. That's crazy. It's like having a baby.
pretty much, yes. It is not on, it's quite expensive too.
Mm.
It could be quite expensive to have a music instrument. It really did. Most of the instruments, violins, cellos, pianos, they can go up in the price to millions of dollars.
That is crazy. I didn't know. Obviously you have to keep what you have, and I'm a type of person that love what I have to maintain it well, but I didn't know instrument were so important. But that's
Yeah.
still pretty cool. That's why we all have our different fields. There's certain things that I believe are super important, other people might not. So that's the interesting part of it. Okay, so pertaining also to the cello goes into my very first general knowledge question. I think this is something you should know, but
Oh
let's
gosh.
see.
We'll see.
Okay, so question number one, what is the cello's full name?
Violoncello. I think that's the full name.
You said what?
Violoncello, violoncelle. It's in Italian. I think it's in Italian.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down and we'll see you at the end if you got that right. So going on to post number two. Look at you, little kitty.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I do. That
Tell
was that
tell
was
us a little bit. What's going on?
that was like 12 years ago as well. That was my first it was during the summer, and I was attending school in Georgetown University in DC.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And I was in the sort of English language program, summer program, and so I was. We had a pretty big class of all different international students coming from all over the world, and so those are three guys from my class that I had. I think two of them on the side from South Korea, and then I think the guy below is from South America, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I haven't really been in touch with them since I'm actually Instagram, Facebook, I think we're still friends, but yeah, I think it's on campus at Georgetown University, and we had like classes during the 8 to 12, and then in the afternoon we had these fun activities. We'd go to tours and just explore the
That's cool.
city. So yeah, it was also a lot of fun. It was nothing related to music or jujitsu or
Right.
anything like that. It was just a fun summer experience that I had
Exactly.
with my
So
classmates.
yeah, I wanted to know, you look at, the young Tetyana then versus who you are now, the experience you've had, your journey. So what is one thing you would say you wish she had known about this journey that you went through, coming in from having two different cultures, two different things, maybe different ways of viewing the world? What is that one thing you wish she would have known going through her journey?
Gosh, I think since I came, to the States until
Okay.
now, I feel to have more fun and
Mhm.
be less serious. And I think just culturally as well as with all the experience I had to go through. I didn't really know English that much, and I went to Messiah College, which required you to
Mhm.
be excellent in knowing the language
Mhm.
at that time. And I was lucky enough to have the right friends and the right professors who really took care of me and helped me to grow and become who I am today. But I was really taking things very seriously. I was really hardworking, and I really took the time to learn the language, to do all my work that I needed to do, which really paid off. But at the same time, I really wish that it's okay to take some time off and just have fun with your friends, just maybe a little bit more than I used to.
That's awesome. Yeah, guys, have a good time. That's always helpful. Okay, going into question number 2. Quiz game. So, what does www stand for in the website browser? What does www
Um,
stand for?
World Web. Gosh, it's like World Web website or something.
Okay,
I
what's your final answer?
okay. www. It's like my tongue.
Yeah.
World Wide Web.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna write
like
it
that.
down.
I
I'm
remember I had that in school. I had that in school. And it was like 10 years ago, so I don't remember.
Okay, perfect. All right, so going into our next topic. So this is something obviously that's a little bit more of a nuance, something that's new that you've stepped into. So I wanted you to also kind of share a little bit about that experience. 2 photos, I couldn't choose one, but there's this photo here that's very special, and then there's the other one here too. So tell us a little bit, first of all, how did you get into this?
Yes, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
I got into it, I wouldn't say by accident, but it's again similar to the cello. I kind of fell into the jiu-jitsu academy while I was in
Mhm.
Michigan. I was living there since 2018.
Okay.
And right before COVID, I just decided to go to a martial arts school that was very close by. And
Mm.
I kind of fell in love the same way, just like I felt that was the right project for me to do. And I, started to get in more and more into it. And eventually I started traveling and competing and becoming more like an athlete. My
Mm.
trainings that I used to have like once a week got into twice a week. Then I started traveling to Florida to train with a place here. I live in Florida right now.
Okay.
And so, I kind of became very interested in being on the mats, being in the gym, and training. So I would train pretty much every day. And during the summers, I would take sort of vacation break. So we just go to a training studio and just spend all day training. It's
Wow.
What you would do as if you wanted to
Exactly.
get out there and compete, because all the girls you go against, that's sort of your life. You train, you travel, and you compete. And I think an interesting thing is that it's such a different activity than music, especially classical
Very
music.
different. Yeah.
Right. So you think about it, such a, there is so much difference in it. It's a sports music. My parents never really allowed me and my siblings to play sports because we were musicians. And there's also always a fear that you will do something to your hands, which I did, and I had to stop.
Yeah.
You break your hand, you cannot play, especially as a professional musician.
Mm.
But in jiu-jitsu, it's, I felt that need to compete. And I think there are things that are very similar to music, is that, you have to be very determined, you have to be very hardworking. The concentration that takes you to get on the mats or to be on a competition level is sort of kind of the same level as you have to be a musician. So for me, it was more natural than for perhaps other people who start this career later in life, because I started just a few years ago, so it's very new. But the beauty of jiu-jitsu is that you can do it anytime, you can do at any age. You kind of adapt the skills and adapt the technique to what you can and cannot do.
Right.
And competing I never thought I would be competing, but I think I really enjoy to test my knowledge and skills and see, at what level you are, where you need to improve. And I kind of started this, it was a lot of fun. The first competition I had, it was back in Michigan, and I just went the mats and I had a lot of fun. I think that's all it's all about. Even though you're so concentrated on the mats, you're so in the moment. And that's one thing I like about it, is that when you train or when you compete, it's in the moment. You cannot think about anything else. You have to be present. And a lot of times, like during the day, it's really hard. Like you always get distracted. Your mind is always somewhere else. But in music and the sports, it's like you have to be there and do your best, because otherwise you wouldn't get the results that you need, especially when you compete. If you want to get to the top, you gotta bring your mind to the front. But all of them, they're great experiences, and it's fun to be in the podium too. It's nice to know that you've accomplished things. And at the same time, like I think a couple of the girls from this photo, I like stay in touch with. So it's not about that just being a competitor and going to competition trainings. You meet great people around the country or around the world.
Right.
Get into it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that you meet a lot of people, and you mentioned also the fact that there's women. And I would say, not knowing anything personally about jiu-jitsu, I usually thought it was mostly a male-dominated sport. So I wanted to know, from your perspective, what does it look like now, having kind of the modern, the new woman into that sport, and seeing also the success that you have there? What's that looks like now?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The history of Brazilian jiu-jitsu is Japanese jiu-jitsu and judo, and we can go on and on about the history of it, but I think it's important to know where it's coming from. Originally, Japanese samurai used to develop the technique for jiu-jitsu, and then it moved into judo as a more safer sport, and then eventually came to Brazil, and Brazilians sort of, I would say, a little bit redeveloped it, and sort of, brought it back to being more popular. And so now in the United States, you practice more Brazilian jiu-jitsu, as they call it, or Gracie jiu-jitsu. And that's where sort of my school was coming from. And you're right, it was originated as a men's sport. You had to be very strong, very technical. You needed to be a samurai, you need to be a fighter. The jiu-jitsu I do is more it's less extreme in terms of like getting hurt. And what the modern jiu-jitsu is right now is more, for women, it's more like self-defense. Something that I thought was very valuable is that you can protect yourself if you need to. I think for women today, it's very important. Self-esteem, you get much better self-esteem. You get friendship, you get to get
community,
a lot of people and competition, so you develop a lot of those skills that you really need. And not necessarily for women, for men as well, but I think specifically for me, women, it's the self-defense and self-esteem that it rises up right away. And not to say that I had to do it because I needed just to defend myself every day. No, but now I'm much more confident and much more athletic, and I think it really helps me with my music as well, because you use a lot of the grips, your fingers and the gripping, and it really develops the muscles in your wrists and your fingers. And it really increased my ability to play like more difficult passages, technical passages on the cello, because it's a lot of, hand work and finger work on the instrument. So it's kind of, it's really fascinating to think about those, like how do they connect to each other, and why really like it feels so natural to me to jiu-jitsu. And at the same time it's like really comfortable to be a musician as well. And like I never gotten hurt. I've been considering that I've been doing jiu-jitsu pretty much every day for the past couple of years, and playing the cello at the same time. Of course, there could be injuries, but you have to be careful and mindful. You don't want to go 100%. But as women and musician cellist, I think that this martial art really can bring the sport to the level where women can do it. There is ability for other women to work with each other and sort of to share that knowledge and expertise, and compete sometimes if you really like it.
Okay, that's amazing. And I love the fact that you said that it's like you're able to utilize what you're learning here in the other industry, they're also in this industry. In both industries, like you said, they have this idea of concentration and also competition, if I should say. So you're able to and then learn more, like you said, to elevate your self-esteem, to also make sure that you're able to own your craft. So own your own skills. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into your third question.
Already,
I know. So this next one is, what geometric shape is used for a stop sign on the road?
Oh gosh. 1, 2. It has like 8 angles. I don't know, like there is a name for it, and definitely something I wouldn't answer correctly, like rectangle.
What is your final answer?
Yeah, that's gonna be it. I can't like think of it right now, but 1, 2. Now I'm gonna be driving back home and I'll have to watch the signs.
Okay, so you don't have an answer, or you'll give
the rectangle? Is it? Yeah, I think that's a geometric shape. I don't think it's the right one though.
Okay, I'm gonna put it down.
Yeah, it has like 8 angles.
I don't know. We'll tell
the music
and people at the end. We'll see whether or not Tetyana has gotten all of it right. Okay, so moving into, I wanted you to give a few advice to these 3 types of people. Okay, so the first person is, this person wants to learn an instrument, but they don't know where to start. They don't know how to pick up anything. Or they don't want to be influenced necessarily by outside voices. They want to make sure this is something they're going to step into and kind of like go for it. So what would you give them as an advice?
To start any instrument, or they just
Mm-hmm.
want to play music.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend starting with the piano as
Okay.
the first instrument, because I started with the piano and I did not,
Uh-huh.
it was not my instrument. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. It was just, I love the piano and I do play now, but it was not the right time for me. And
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's sort of the base for all the instruments. And if you're a
Right.
musician, if you play any other instruments, you still have to learn the piano. So it's like you're gonna start with it, and a lot of people love it. A lot of people are able to play it and feel comfortable with it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most important question to ask that, do you have the dedication and the time that you want to invest in playing the instrument? Whether it's 10 minutes a day, whether it's half an hour, but have
Mm-hmm.
the dedication and say, if I really want to learn, I need to make sure that I invest my time into it and resources.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, and from there, if you don't like this instrument, you can talk to a teacher and try
Mm-hmm.
something else. There's always a way to find it, but you have to be ready for it. And it doesn't matter which, what's your goal. If you want to be professional, if you just want to do it as a hobby, or if you always had this passion for music and you want to try something new, it's just important to know what your goal is and how much time you want to invest into it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, guys, start with that piano, pick it up, do something, play the ugliest chord, because you gotta at least get your hands wet, like she said. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so this second person this is a person who wants to learn a new skill that is different from what they're doing now. So, for example, for you, you went from the cello to jiu-jitsu. You're still doing both, but they're very different ventures. So what would you say to that person who's trying to venture into something new?
Well, as my coach used to say, that there are only a few principles that you can learn, and you base all the new skills on those principles. And it can be principles of life, it can be principle of jiu-jitsu. And so you have 4 basic techniques that you learn, and then if you want to learn new skills, that would base of what you already know. It's much easier to go out of that. And we used to say on the mats, if it's better to go with a person who know 500 different moves, because they're really not as knowledgeable, whether of the technique or the move itself. But if you go with a person who's really, really good with the principles of how the technique works, they can pick it up right away. And it's based not necessarily in jiu-jitsu, in sports and music, in anything that you decide for yourself. If you want to develop a new skill, learn a new skill, paint. I don't paint, and I really would love to paint. But I would base on that, my time, the energy I put into it, what I know about painting. Do I want to learn before I start, like the theory behind it? Those things kind of important to me before I actually start. To how I designate my time and my efforts into that specific skill. So I think those are important things. So I would say as soon as you get your main principles and values sort of set, it's so much easier to learn any technique you need. And the same, that's what I was saying about music and jiu-jitsu, is that while I thought those were such different things, I realized that it's really
the core
of who you are and what you value and what you sort of learned throughout the years, that you can apply your knowledge to anything. It doesn't need to be music, it doesn't need to be sports, it can be anything that you decide to do.
I love that, guys. That's a tweetable moment right there. Whatever your principles, your values, those are the same core things you can apply to a new skill. So remember that. That's awesome. And this third person, this one is a person who is getting, this is pertaining to changing of cultures, changing of countries, or having to adapt to a different set of ways of doing things and viewing life. So I wanted you to speak to this person who's trying to get acclimated to two different cultures without kind of losing their own roots. What would you say to them?
I would say be open-minded. That's a big part of how I was able to come to United States and sort of love the country. I haven't been back to Ukraine since I came, just haven't had the opportunity to go back and stay authentic. That's a very big piece that sometimes you miss. But what I see more often is that not that people don't stay authentic, is that they're so close-minded about other cultures, and it could take years for somebody to really say, okay, now I see why people do things this way, not my way. And if you really think about it, it's you coming to a new country, and it's you who need to change in terms of adapt to something, not the people around you. You come in here, if you don't know the language, you need to learn the language. You want to know the culture here. You want to celebrate the holidays that if we're speaking about United States, that people here celebrate, not your own holidays. But at the same time, you do want to continue your traditions and your customs that you bring from your own country. And I think that's the beauty of multicultural environment, is that you are being able to adapt while you also bring that unique piece of yourself, and you allow other people to learn something unique about your country, your culture, and yourself. And so I think those are very important pieces that kind of you keep in mind, and you try to find that balance between being open-minded and at the same time remembering who you are, who you're really coming from.
It reminds me, me, I didn't come into the United States as an international student, but I was involved also in my international student body in college. And like you said, being able to be within an environment of, multicultural environment, but yet still bringing in my uniqueness, like that one thing that I'm offering to this whole group. And I think what makes it multicultural is the fact that we're all coming together to bring our own unique stuff. Then that's why, the multi aspect of it comes into play. So it's really cool. Like, I love the way you said it, that understand also that you are the one who is to adapt to the new environment more so than them adapting to your ways. So it's interesting. I like that advice. Okay. So question number 4, Tetyana, you ready?
Oh, ready. Last one.
Last one.
We'll see if I didn't get the world.
Okay. So this one, in the world of sports, which person was known as the people's champion or the greatest?
The people's champion. Wow. I don't know. I mean, any sport, like it's just generally sports. I mean, it could be like
this is pretty general. He was known, it's a him, and that's the hint. It's a man. He was known pretty worldwide.
Gosh, I would like Andre Agassi in tennis. But you said people's champion.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you, if I give you a hint, you might get it, but it's a sport that's very close to yours.
Huh.
That's a very good hint.
Wrestling. What was his name? Is it wrestling, pro wrestling or something?
I don't know. I can't give you more. I can't give you more.
Gosh, it has to be wrestling and judo. Well, judo and wrestling. So there is a sort of a wrestling, and then there's like a little pro wrestling. It's like a fan club of wrestling, which they do like a shows. And there was one guy who was like a people's champion, I would say. But what was his name? Daniel Bryan? That would be funny if that's him, because I think I wouldn't say it's a sport though. It's really not a sport. So no.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, Daniel O'Brien. Gosh, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what it is.
Okay, so as we come towards the end, guys, we're gonna go through and see if our special guest has gotten all the questions correctly, or two, or one.
I'll just tell you my favorite, my moment.
What'd you say?
I'll just tell you my embarrassing moment, I think.
Okay, so the first question is, what is the full name of the cello? She said violoncello. Violoncello. That is correct. It is indeed. Obviously, she would know.
I better know. I mean,
yeah.
my teachers would not be happy if I wouldn't.
Okay, and the second question is, what does WWW stand for? And Tetyana, she said, let me go back to that second question there. She said World Wide Web. Correct.
Okay. I guess I'll tell my professors in school. At least you taught me something that was useful.
Good job, good job. Okay, and then the third question. What is the geometric shape of a stop sign? You said rectangle.
No way, it is ranked.
Incorrect. It is called an octagon. 8.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you had the number, but you just didn't have the name. Yeah.
Octagon. Okay, well, now I know.
Octagon. Okay, and then the very last question, who was known as the people's champion, the greatest? It was Muhammad Ali.
Oh my gosh, in boxing? Yes.
There you go. You said Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was the closest person who I thought it was very like a people's person. So yeah, Muhammad Ali for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to our special part. We get to hear her most embarrassing moment.
Gosh, you know,
right. Go ahead, hon.
It's really like I really never like had like really embarrassing moments where like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, you know. I told her like I was a pretty serious kid, and like throughout my college life, I didn't have any crazy situation that happened to me, but in music there was one time when I played a solo recital, and there was one piece that was very difficult, very challenging, and I saw when I played, I had a pianist with me playing, so accompanying me, and I think I was around 12, 14, so I was very young, and I completely forgot a part of the piece I was playing. So I was on the stage, a lot of people in the audience, I completely forgot, and you could tell from my expressions that there was something going on. So what I did, I started improvising. I was like, I'm just gonna go with it, and it was not good improvisation. The tone didn't sound right. It was like it was weird. It was, I still remember, it like did not sound like anything close to the piece I was supposed to play. My teachers were terrified because they saw it gonna stop, completely. But like I kept playing. I knew where I had to get to. It was like I'm gonna get there, whatever it takes. Yeah. And so I ended, on a good note. I finished the piece. There was the slower moment where I was able to get into it, and my pianist sort of catched up. And I was like, okay, like I was very embarrassed as a 12-year-old. But what happened is that after the concert, I had people come to me and they say, oh, you played great, but we think the pianist messed up a lot. So what happened is that pianist, I usually see it in front, right? The piano is behind me, so I cannot really see the pianist. And it looked like pianist was messing up because she looked terrified. because she had to follow me, but she had no idea what I was doing. I was improvising, and she had music in front of me. I had music in front of me, and I was not playing the right music.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So everybody thought that it was her who was messing up the entire thing. And I was like, no, that wasn't not what happened. But it was pretty embarrassing to just to feel that I messed up on the stage.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was the only time when I was like, I completely blacked out. I had no idea what to play. But at least I didn't stop, so maybe that's good. And you had to start.
Are you still good friends with that pianist? Is she okay?
I hope so. It was back in Ukraine, so I played after, I played with her after the concert, but she probably was on the lookout at my performances to make sure, like, they have to like catch up. And
she might be watching this episode and is like, I remember.
Well, I'm sure she did, because she was pretty terrified apparently. And
Wow.
I felt just really bad that she looked so scared on the stage, and I was just like going off and like, okay, I'm not able.
It's really sad, like you said, when you start improvising and then the person's like, that was not what we're supposed to be doing. It is a terrifying thing.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, and the thing about the sort of the classical music background that I'm coming from is that you learn piece by memory, right? So you play without the music, and then the pianist would have the music, but there is no improvisation. There is nothing that you can come up with. It's just the way it is. Sort of, you given the music, you learn it and you play it. And so when you start improvising in that terms, it's like, this isn't heard of, especially like, I didn't have much experience in improvising, so it was not good. It was really, really bad.
Wow.
But I overcame it, and I said, you know what, if that happened again, I'm just gonna keep going.
Yes, of course. You gotta keep going. Otherwise, you start looking, for me, in because I have theater background. So they've told us also, if you mess up something, just keep going. Don't act like you've messed it up, because they won't know that you're messing it up or you're doing well. They won't know. They'll just think it's a part of the show.
Right. So, as long as it sounds good.
Yeah.
It looks good, right?
Exactly. As long as you get to that end note and we're like, wonderful. Perfect. Okay, so Tetyana, let the people know, how can they contact you, or perhaps book you, or perhaps have you on one of their competitions for jiu-jitsu. Let them know, how can they get in touch with you?
I think my email is the best. It's Tanicello, TANICELLO @gmail.com. I do have Facebook and Instagram as well. I think it's my first and last name, Tetyana Pyatovolenko. That they can follow me.
Definitely. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
You're very welcome. I'm kind of glad you got some questions, but that you didn't get all the questions. So we got to hear your embarrassing moment.
Gosh. Well, now I know what the stop sign is.
Octagon. You're going to see octagons all day tomorrow.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, but definitely thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. You learned a lot of great stuff, and you're able to connect also with Tetyana. As you know, if you have anyone you think you would suggest to be a guest on UnPublic, let me know. But otherwise, thank you again for watching. I will see you all on our next episode of UnPublic. Goodbye.